Good evening. I hope everybody can hear me. I've had a bit of trouble with the microphone, so if you could put in the comments whether you can hear me or not, or if you see me going, I could do the old sign language, but I don't understand how to do the signs. But I was trying to do some sign language when Boris was talking. I just did that all the time. I think that really or bullshit. So, can you hear me? Hello, anybody out there? Yes, I hope you can hear me. Any comments? Obviously, you can't hear me. But anyway, I'll carry on, and I just hope that you can hear me. Got an exciting show this week. Well, it's an exciting show every week. Well, for me, it is anyway. And hang on, volume good, excellent. All right. Smashing, thank you very much. Oh, that's good. Right, thank you, everybody. Much appreciated. Right, now this week I've decided to make a change because I don't know about you, but I'm getting fed up with hearing about this, non-stop. I won't say it because I don't want to get booted off of YouTube, but this sort of, yeah, or it's getting on my nerves. And so I decided to make a change this week and talk about extroverts and introverts. But before I do, later on, there's a dirty joke coming up. It's a cracker, this one is. It's about Red Indians. So stay tuned for that, because remember, if the vicar's round the tea, boot him out, remove any animals in the area, and children, of course, because there's a bit of foul language in it. So it's a real good one, actually. Well, I think it is anyway. But before I go on to introverts and extroverts, I don't know whether anybody out there has actually noticed this, but I've noticed there's two types of moron muzzle wearers. And that is, when they see me not wearing a muzzle, they either do the routine. I don't know if anybody noticed that, the sort of, or you get the tutters. So the tutters, or the sort of Don Juan, we're sort of hiding away. It's like amateur dramatics. And, I was in a shop the other day, and there's a girl walked past me, saw I didn't have a sanitary towel over my face. Oh. But surely, if she thinks the sanitary towel over her face is working, what's she got to fear from me? Because let's face it, if it works, if you've got a muzzle on and it works, then what's the problem? But I actually went into Tool Station a couple of days back in Hertford. And normally the people in there are very polite. And, it's just a walk in and walk out. There's no one in there, and just two blokes in there with their muzzles, gloves, all that, standing there. And as I walked in, I felt there was a sort of atmosphere. You got to sit that sense. And I walked in there and I said, that's what I wanted. Got a mask, mate? Well, first of all, I'm not his mate. And secondly, I'm a customer. I don't expect the red carpet treatment, but I do expect to be treated with a little bit of politeness. I mean, if he could have said, I'm terribly sorry, so I've got to ask you, if you could sort of got a mask. I'd have been very polite. So I just said, exempt. He went, oh. And really arrogant attitude. But I went to another branch. I won't be going to Hertford, by the way, Tool Station. And I went to another branch of Tool Station, the complete opposite. Really nice, really pleasant. And again, I wasn't wearing a muzzle. And it's up to the staff whether they wear a muzzle or not. So, I find that, ugh. But anyway, I'll just have a look in comment before I go on to the main subject tonight. And what have we got? Hello, Jonathan Warrenberg. Hello, Essex from Yorkshire. Oh, yes. We've had plenty of liquid sunshine down here, It's called rain. And it's what we got here. Magic J. Some reasoning should be used for, really. Yes, yes. Well, something that I've actually thought of is the 1918 flu epidemic. Now, I think it must have been mainly in America because my grandparents never spoke about it ever. So whether it was mainly in America or not, I do not know. So if anybody does know, I'd be grateful. But I think it was more in America. How comes they didn't have a vaccine to cure that? And it just sort of went. Nobody's asking that. Hello, is Stewie here tonight? He must be. Can't see him. Oh well. Anyway, on with introverts and extroverts. Now, believe it or not, you might be surprised that I'm very much an introvert. I might not give that impression, but I am. And there's a lot of misconception about introverts and extroverts. First of all, people think that introverts are very quiet. Wrong. Some are not. Now, there's some famous people that are introverts. For example, George Cole, who acted the part of Minder, in Minder. Arthur Daly, he was an introvert. He said that he didn't like parties, he didn't like crowds, and he'd lived in an area, I'm not sure where he lived, but he lived in the countryside for 20 odd years. And this was before the days of mobile phones. His car broke down and he went into the local pub to make a phone call to the local garage. And the people in the pub said, "Oh, you're going to come live round here, Mr. Cole? Well, you're moving round here." And he'd lived there for 20 years. Because again, he was quite shy. Well, to say shy, no, he was an introvert. I wouldn't say he's shy. And another introvert was Marty Feldman, the comedian. He was an introvert, apparently. So I'm going to sort of hang on, what's this? Am I being shadowed? I don't know, Stewie. Hope not. No, but this is the thing about being an introvert in an extrovert's world, because extroverts think that everybody is an extrovert, and they seem to make the laws, the extroverts. Now, let's dispel a few things. Now, first of all, if you want to find out more about introvert and extrovert, if you go on to, where is it? This YouTube site, Mossy Bottom. Sounds rude. It's a chap that actually has got a small holding in Ireland. I think he's English and he lives in Ireland. And he spoke about introverts, being an introvert and extroverts. And it's very interesting. And he gave me the idea for this program. So thanks to him, this is not my idea, that was his idea. So if you want to find out more about introvert and extrovert, he goes into it quite deeply. Now, I must jump around a bit because I've forgotten something, which I have got a terrible memory about the right. Okay, go on to that. If you please go on to that. So after this program, of course, that's gemmaodoherty.com. Now her site has been playing up a little bit. I hope it's okay, and I don't know whether they're trying to attack it or not. But she has been in touch with the NPNET, whatever that is, and I found out what it is, and apparently it's the what is it now? The National Public Health Emergency Team in Ireland, and I think it's similar to the British NHS, I assume. And she's been onto them, and she's found out that the doesn't exist. Seriously, it's a hoax. So she explains it better than I can. Please go onto that site. I'll pop it on there again after this. I know she's all a bit going, she's going there, but please go onto Gemma's site, Gemma O'Doherty, because it is well worth watching. I've watched it twice, and she's an investigative journalist. Please excuse me, sorry. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. Anyway, back to what I was talking about, introverts and extroverts. Now, when I was a kid, I used to be on my own most of the time. My dad worked at the typewriter trade. He used to bring home these polystyrene boxes that the typewriters came in, and my mum filled them with water, and I used to play my little toy boats. I was quite happy. I didn't have any friends. I was really, happy as a sandboy, playing around. And then one day I dragged along to this horrendous building, booted in there, and it was school. And I actually thought that you had to be punished for being a child, because it was absolutely terrifying. I was pushed into this classroom full of kids behaving like apes. They'd be satchel snatched from me and thrown around the room, and looking back, I actually went into shock. I was actually in shock because it was like being thrown into the lion's den. And my mother told me, she said, the people there just dragged me. Said, okay, you'll be all right, and slammed the door. And I actually went as deaf, would you believe? Slightly deaf for a while. And I think that must have been the shock. But anyway, cut a long story sideways, it's taken years for me to understand. People used to say, oh, he's a bit shy. That introverts are not necessarily shy. That's another myth. Because shy people are normally talkative people. And my grandfather, on my father's side, he was totally blind, and he used to sum people up a lot. And he said, shy people speak to hide their shyness. A quiet person that hardly says a word and doesn't make a conversation is a dangerous person and has to be avoided at all costs. And he drummed that into my father. And my auntie brought home a boyfriend who hardly said a word. Now, as my dad's father was blind, he needed conversation. He was a good conversationalist. And this fella, this is what my father told me, came in and he tried to make a conversation with him, and all he got was and as I say, my grandfather, he was very straight talking. He actually ran a greengrocer's stall and a shop, and he was totally blind. So that's quite an achievement. And he said to this chap, you got tongue in your head? He said, right, there's the door, get out and never see my daughter again. All right, get out. And he did. And my auntie was in tears and that, and he said, that specimen, or that character, I was going to say specimen, is nothing but trouble. He said, because quiet people who don't make a conversation are plotting against you. Get away from them. Never bring anything like that into this house again. He was spot on. And my dad drummed that into me. He said, be wary of people that don't make a conversation. People that are dumb insolent, because they've got no consideration for other people. They will, because you make a conversation to put a person at ease, because you're putting yourself into their shoes, so to speak. Now, if you won't say anything, then you're actually showing complete selfishness and complete disregard for that other person. It's a bit like an in-law who came into my house when I was young, and he wasn't my in-law then, and I tried to make a conversation. I was only about, I don't know, 9 or 10, and all I got was, yeah, what, not yeah, sort of, oh, I believe you work with my sister. Been on holiday this year? Yeah. Have you worked very long? Sort of in this place where you work? Now, as a child, you haven't got the social skills that you develop as you get older. Nowadays, I'd have just walked out, just left them. I've got no time for those sort of people. And another, what I called silent wonder that I worked, I wouldn't say with, because I was before I was freelance. And I worked in this place where this chap smoked through his cigarette. That's when you could smoke in the offices. I've never smoked, never drunk. And I went up to him. I said, excuse me, have you got such and such a drawing? He goes, said, excuse me, have you got, drawing number whatever? Heard it the first time. Standing there, waiting. So I said, well, have you got it, please? Got bad memory, haven't you? Okay. So I'm standing there, still waiting. So I thought, right, just keep calm. Just told you where that drawing was last week. I mean, how do you expect to remember something like that over a week? So I stood there and stood there and stood there. And I just decided to just stare straight through him like that. Didn't psych him out at all. So in the end, I said, well, when you finish effing around with your ego trip, can you tell me where the effing drawing is? And just walked away and came back later when he was at lunch and searched around and found the drawing that he'd hidden underneath some pile of other drawings. But that is the sort of silent wonder. And I've also worked with another one that was an actual alcoholic, and his daughter worked in the same place, and his daughter was very, very talkative, and she said that anybody that doesn't smoke nor drink, he doesn't want to know, doesn't speak to. So I didn't smoke, I've never smoked or drunk, so he never spoke to me. You say, oh, good morning. And he was a bit like Richard Burton in that he had to drink because he would, to keep him going, because his body was so used to alcohol, he couldn't survive without it. So it was quite quite a character, very nasty character. And it's true what my grandfather said. He tried to get me out. He tried to get me booted out of the firm, but he went before me because I'd actually worked at this particular firm twice before and they knew me. But he was a new kid on the block, so to speak. Nasty piece of work he was. But his daughter, who was very nice, she said he never says a word to me. He doesn't say a word to my mother. How do you live in a house like that? She said, well, he just boozes all the time. She said he comes home Friday, he's drunk all weekend, and he comes back on Monday. And he's just sort of, and he had one eye. And apparently he worked in a holiday camp when he in the 1950s when he left school, and he angered the people so much because he wouldn't speak to them. Someone shot him, blew his eye out, something happened like that. So he's frustrated a lot of people, but there are people like that. And again, don't bother with them, just leave them alone. But going back to introvert and extrovert, when you look at the world where it is an extrovert world, another example is with conscientious objectors during World War II, because in order to be a conscientious objector, you had to be a member of an association or club that was a peace organisation. Well, introverts generally don't join clubs or organisations. I don't, because you're happy in your own world. So poor sods that went, because you had to go to a board if you were a conscientious objector, where you had to face cross questioning and all kinds of things, and very few people actually got away with it. And it's only those that were members of peace groups that tended to get away with it. I heard an interview with Michael Tippett many years ago, who was a composer, and he was conscious. He was an introvert, and he was a conscientious objector. And of course, he went to prison because that's what they did. They sent you to prison. And in the prison was poets, music composers, all kinds of artistic people. And he said the authorities just couldn't get their head around these people because his mate was given solitary confinement for 2 weeks and he wanted 3 weeks because he could have finished his music composition. Because the silence, he could think deeply about writing music. And he said the guards just couldn't get it because they're introverts. So that sort of, it was less of a punishment to them. But it doesn't mean to say you're selfish or anything like that. It's just that crowds, I find, people say, why do you come to Trafalgar Square, London? No. I don't like crowds. I don't like cities, actually. I don't like crowded places. Cities depress me. People say, well, how comes you go on YouTube when you're introvert? Well, it's on my terms. So, I don't sometimes go as guests on other programs. But again, this other thing about when you're growing up, oh, get him out of his shell. He's got to mix. And you're forced to actually mix when you don't really want to. And being an introvert, it makes it much harder, I think, to find a partner. Because I've got to find a girlfriend that's equally introvert. And all I met was extroverts and mental cases. And I thought, why is it people that I know find a lovely girl, get married? I can't. I seem to meet people that that should really be inmates in a lunatic asylum. And apparently, what it is we give is what we give off. You see, in those days, I was sometimes a bit negative, and if you give off negativity, you attract negativity. So if you attract positiveness, you bring back positiveness. Now let's have a quick look in comments to see what we got here. We've got here. I see you, Stewie. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He thinks he's shadow banned. Just joking, Emma. Okay, right. Okie dokie. And here we go. The greatest fraud ever perpetrated on humanity, Gemma O'Doherty's. Now that's interesting. That's interesting. Yes. And we got DJ B2. Hello from Hampshire. Well, hello, Hampshire. I hope the weather's better than it is here. Mind you, it was sunny this afternoon, so it's not bad, is it? Anyway, back to extroverts and introverts. You know, it is much harder being an introvert. You know, in your working life, it's part of the reason I went freelance was one is because I didn't like really being permanent staff because I like to do my own thing, and two, I used to do everything to avoid the Christmas parties. I hated them. Not my scene. And you know, you'd get, didn't see you at the Christmas party. No, you won't. And again, you know, I wouldn't say I'm a miserable sod, but I just don't like parties, and I'm very uneasy in a crowd. I don't like crowds and sort of. Ooh. But you know, it's strange. I mean, again, part of the reason for being freelance is part of my psyche is that, well, if I went to a place where I got silent wonders or I was very prone to being bullied, I'd just, excuse my language, sod off and go someplace else. But in reality, that doesn't work, because if you're working on a contract, which is a very good rate, you think, no, I don't think I will go somewhere else. Or if there's a recession, which there is, because the building industry apparently goes through 11-year cycles, crash and burn, crash and burn, crash and burn. You don't sort of put yourself, you know, out of work. And of course, you don't get any dole money or anything like that when you're freelance, because, you know, you weren't paid by the hour. So all we got here, that's the video you were talking about, Chris, I think. Oh, that was Gemma O'Doherty's one. I don't know. I got here. I did not go to any works Christmas parties after I had to choke a manager after he assaulted me. That's a good idea, isn't it? Mind you, the only funny thing, what we got here? Parties, yes. The only good thing is when you see people are normally stiff starch getting drunk. I mean, I had a girlfriend who worked for a bank, B-A-N-K, and she dragged me along to this office party that they had, and I've never forgotten it. And I sat there, oh God, no. And one of the stiff-starched employees got drunk out of his mind and got on the dance floor and was dancing with himself all night. Oh. And that was a bit funny, actually, you know. But no, it's funny, really, because you know, everybody seems to want to be part. You be part of the team. Now, do you remember the Olympics? It was a team member. But when you look at people that's achieved things in life, it's generally the individuals. Look at Tesla. Look at Henry Ford, he was an individual, although he was a Freemason apparently. But it's mainly individuals. But the reason why I think they push all this teamwork, must be part of the team, got to be there, is because it's easy to be controlled in a team. And of course, it's, shall we say, the wolf pack. Join the wolf pack, because then you get groupthink, and that's the last thing that governments want. Is individual thought. They want groupthink. Everybody wear a muzzle. Oh, I wear a muzzle. That's it. Anyway, this is a short one tonight. Oh, hang on a minute. We got here. Funny enough, it was at a Christmas party where I worked for a high street bank. Yeah, I know. It was my girlfriend at the time that worked for this bank. It was a bit stiff-starched, It's drunk. I remember my girlfriend, she said, he's going to be a bit embarrassed walking in on Monday morning, isn't he? But, this is the sort of myths about introvert and extrovert. Because, again, shyness. Again, shy people are talkative. Possibly a bit shy. But in a room, I like to just sort of blend into the background. I don't want to be master of ceremonies. I just blend in. Like if I go out shopping or anything, I just blend in. I never wear any t-shirts with wording on it or anything like that. I think I just like to sort of like blend into the background, That's it. But it'd be interesting for next week's program to find out, if you're an introvert, because it takes you a long time to discover this. Because I used to just think I was just basically a bit shy. And I tried to, join a club, tried to mix, but I just didn't like it. And that's the thing. And I think that introverts, if they meet another introvert couples, they tend to be the most devoted, because they sort of devote their lives to each other. People say, oh, that's a bit boring, but they're quite happy with each other because they understand each other, because they're both introverts, And what we got here? Hello, DJB2. I usually wear plain dark colours. Yeah, I do. But I always like to create a bit of a laugh, I mean, if I go into a shop, I like to leave them with a bit of a smile on the face, why not? And talking about a smile on the face, here's the dirty joke. Are you ready? Start with it. Bit of swearing here. So remember, boot the vicar out, kids outside, put them out, put them into another room, and if there's any animals or people of a sensitive disposition, turn the sod off. Anyway, set the scene. North American Indian camp, the 1880s, 1890s. Boom, 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 boom. There's all the teepees there, tents. And suddenly a young brave walks into the wise man's teepee. And the wise man's sitting, puffing his peace pipe. And sometimes it's peace on and sometimes it's peace off. Sorry, it's an old carry-on joke. And says, tell me, why have you come to my teepee? This brave says, tell me, wise man, how do you name braves when they're born? Well, I go out and the first thing I see becomes the brave's name. So I go out and I see a crazy horse. That becomes the child that's born will be Crazy Horse. I see a wolf, and he will be Wolf. Why do you ask this question? Two dogs having a fuck. It's a terrible one. Anyway, that's about as much for this week. Oh, we got another one here. We got here. I know I am an introvert as I took a bunch of psychological tests. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Yes. Mind you, I'll be too introverted, do I? I'll tell you another one. In a room, say there's a meeting room or anything like that, you sit at the back. You don't sit at the front. That's another one. You're a sort of back seat. You know, you sit in the back seat. There's lots of different traits like that. But this lockdown, for example, I feel very, very sorry for extroverts. It must be awful because they need people to. And yes, it can be lonely being an introvert. I mean, everybody has a touch of loneliness, but extroverts need people more than introverts. And it must be terrible for extroverts who are used to going down local, because I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't go to pubs. So it's no real loss to me. And I could probably be on a desert island on my own. You know, so but again, it does get a bit lonely. Yes, I admit that. But the desperation to want to be with people is probably less if you're an introvert than if you're an extrovert. So that's it. Anyway, that's enough of my waffling for this week. Thanks for joining me, and joining me next week. Join me next week, rather. I may or may not have a guest. I don't know. And just remember, have a laugh. And again, thank you everyone in chat, and thanks for joining me. And join me again, and please share and ding that bell. And thank you very much, and good night.